Welcome to episode 56 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Kelly Parrish. Kelly is the owner of Aiden Ollie, a children's boutique in Southaven, Mississippi. Aiden Ollie specializes in clothing, shoes, and accessories for premature babies, infants, and very young children. We'll talk a lot more about that today. And Kelly is now the more famous Parrish between her and her husband, Gary, of 92.9 ESPN Radio, CBS Sports Network, and CBSSports.com. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you, Michael. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Well, I'm an open book. So if you talk to me for 5 seconds, I'm going to tell you everything about my life, my children, my everything. But I do feel like on a daily basis, people say, you have a 19-year-old because the store is called Aiden and Ollie, and my Instagram is filled with Louie and Oliver. Aiden's 19. He doesn't want to be in pictures anymore. He's like, Mom, I've had enough. So all the time he's around, he'll be with me or whatever. And people are like, what, this is your child? And I'm like, yeah. So he is Aiden, and then Oliver, and then Louie is our rainbow baby. So he is the rainbow to our logo. So I think that's probably the one thing. Other than that, everybody knows anything because I adore all people and love to tell them everything.
You know, you grew up in Southaven. You went to school, I believe, Southaven Junior and Senior High School. What are some of your most memorable times from those years?
Probably being in a small community and now still living in the community. You know, being young and you don't have the worries. I grew up before Instagram and Facebook, and we just got to be kids and enjoy. High school was fun. You know, junior high, all the things were just light-hearted. We weren't worried about what other people in the outside world. It was just our own little world. So for me, I feel like it was just easy. It was much easier, I think, compared to now raising children. Then was easier. It was fun. We were outside, we were riding four-wheelers, we were, dressing up for school events. It was just easier.
And kids today, they're all like, all your kids, they're all raised on technology. It's all they know. And we didn't know that when we grew up. I mean, we were forced to go outside and play and to talk to people and do it. So it was a lot different.
Yeah, it really was.
You attended college at Ole Miss, and then shortly after you got into teaching in the DeSoto County school system. I believe you taught special education. And to be a special ed teacher, you undoubtedly have to have a huge heart and love children. What led you into teaching, and what did you learn most about the kids and yourself during that time?
Well, from an early age, even in elementary school, I was in the buddy system. So for me, I started out as a young child helping children with special needs, and I always enjoyed it. If there was something going on at school, I was the person who went and grabbed the child who couldn't walk or couldn't speak and said, I've got you. So for me, it was an enjoyable thing. So as I got older, and in middle school and high school, I continued with that. And then once I graduated, I was like my child is now. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I wanted to service people. And so I went into, I was a behavioral specialist with DeSoto County Schools and worked with children with autism. And I loved that. But at some point, the funding went away. And so then that's when I went back to school and I decided to do special education. And I taught high school, and I worked mainly with children who had learning disabilities. So it was my job to pull them from their classroom and reteach them the things that they didn't understand. And so I really enjoyed teaching.
Somewhere in those high school and college years, you met a young man named Gary Parrish. Tell us a little bit about how you guys met, and also what you thought about him after spending a little bit of time together.
Yeah, so Gary and we've been together since I was 19. So more of my life spent with him than without him. And it was really interesting. I had a friend of mine who actually was my hairdresser, and she was like, oh my gosh, there's this guy I want you to meet. I didn't really think anything of it. Then I also had an English professor who talked to me about a guy that he thought I should meet. Let me go back. So in high school and middle school, I had the same boyfriend all these years. So we broke up, and I'm going to find myself. I'm not going to be with anyone. And so while I'm in college, my English professor is like, oh, there's this guy. I'm like, no big deal. Then I'm out with my friend who's the hairdresser. And she's like, wait a minute here. This is the guy. This is the guy I wanted you to meet. So I meet Gary, and he is unlike, at the time, I mean, still to this day, actually, unlike anyone I had ever met. He spoke differently, he walked differently, he looked differently. He was all different, especially I dated a good old country boy. And so here came Gary with the proper verbiage of everything, and this love for music, and this love for history, this love for the world, and a different view of everything that I had known. So I was drawn to him very quickly. And yeah, I mean, the rest is kind of history. We've been together ever since, and we've been, ups and downs and lows, and you have to really learn to be with someone. And we've had a lot of learning to do.
And I think that, two different people wanting you to meet the same person, fate steps in, synchronicity. It happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Well, I'd like to think so.
I firmly believe in that. So yeah, I do believe that for sure. After teaching for about 8 years, you decided to concentrate, on your family and yourself for a while. I'm sure leaving the school system, wasn't easy for you. How did you handle that transition?
No, it wasn't easy at all. I had an appendix rupture my last year of teaching, and Gary said, I think why don't you take a break? I was in the hospital for 10 days, and I was also in a high school that was constant fighting and different things that still, it was fine, but I thought, you know what, I think you're right. I think I'm going to take a year off and just kind of focus on our family. Gary and I at the time had one son, and he was younger, and I just felt like I was at school before school started. I was there after school. Gary's so busy with his job, and Aiden was kind of getting lost in the midst of it. So I decided to take a year off and just kind of focus on our family. And in that year off, along came sweet Oliver. and so then I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, because I didn't have that privilege with Aiden. And so leaving the school was, at the time, it was really hard. And then something good came of it.
So to backtrack for a second, tell the audience why February 19th, 2003 is such a special day to you and Gary.
February 19th?
I believe it. Is that Aiden's birthday?
Aiden's birthday?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was our first child. We had way too young. I was 21 years old and had no clue what I was doing. But I went from this time in my life to thinking, you're in your 20s and you think you know it all, and you see it all in front of you. And so February 19th, we had our first baby boy, and he's the highlight of our life besides our other two. But yeah, we were babies, and we had our first baby and didn't know what to do and how to do it, and we just made it work.
That day actually is real special to me. Also, I have a young friend of mine, someone that I dated, her daughter that I'm still in contact with today, was born the exact same day.
Oh, yes.
Exact same day. And she's a wonderful person too.
Oh, mine is wonderful too.
So this past April, you and Gary went to the Final Four in New Orleans. He said, quote, another Final Four in the books with the best colleagues and friends you could ever want. Was thrilled to bring Kelly with me to hang with my CBS sports family. But now they all like her more than they like me, which is understandable, but still humbling, unquote. That's pretty funny. Tell us a little bit about that weekend together.
Yeah, no, that's the great thing about Gary's job, is that he gets to travel and do all the fun things. And so sometimes I get to hop on and do them with him. And like I said, there is not a stranger that I don't enjoy meeting. babies to elderly people, to all people. I really do enjoy the company of people. And so getting to go, Gary's not that way. Gary stays focused and does what he does. And then he's not you take him away from the people. I think he peoples so much that in his downtime he chooses to not. So that experience was just fun because I got to meet a lot of the people that he works with that I get to say hey to on Instagram or whatever, but I didn't quite know all of them. And so then I got to connect and just hang out. And while he worked, I got to go to his functions.
And y'all travel to many places together. I've seen you've been in New York together to Mets games and stuff. I know he's a huge Mets fan and stuff. Those just have to be so much fun to do.
It is. I try to tell that to my oldest, is that you learn more about yourself the more places you get to go. So, that you get to go and experience other people's cultures and be in their environment, and you take something from each one of those experiences.
A few months ago, when I first started doing my podcast, I had the opportunity to talk to Gary, and he was one of my first few guests. And, I have to tell you, it was sort of surreal for me to be able to interview, one of my idols. He's always been, very transparent on his radio show. And of course, he was once again when we talked about, 2016 for you guys during that podcast. You said of that time, quote, "Our family was faced with a lost stillbirth that tore me down, but also showed me the love and goodness in people that I hope I can always give to others. The sincere love and kindness that a stranger can offer someone is just as powerful as the love of a best friend. And I have witnessed that from so many, and I am forever grateful," unquote. Now, I can't even possibly imagine, what you guys went through, Kelly. And as amazing as, Gary's ratings are, he has the #1 drive show in the afternoon. Not everyone listens to sports radio, and not everyone knows the story. Will you please share with the audience a little bit more about that time and what happened?
Yes. So we were expecting our third child. This was before we had Louie. And it was high risk. It wasn't high risk like Louie was high risk, but it was from the get-go. It was a surprise. We had Oliver. Oliver was our surprise. Aiden was our surprise. This one, we had an only child for 11 years. And so then when I had Oliver, I was like, I want him to have a sibling. So we actually tried for another child. And we were told very early that we were pregnant with multiple babies. So it went from a pregnancy of what we were told very early of 3. And Gary was, we were, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with 3 babies? How is this even possible? To then it went to, okay, this is very common. A lot of people, when you find out really early, there are multiples. So then it went to 2. And the doctor even warned us then, you're still really early. I'm really in tune with my body. And so he said, this could still just be a phantom. You may. So anyways, long story short, we end up with 1 healthy pregnancy, and we go through the pregnancy. Everything's fine. We're checked out. It's just 1 baby. We find out he is a boy. Every appointment was great. And at 25 weeks, going on to my 26th week, I break out into a rash all over my body. And Gary is out of town, and I tell him, I say, something's not right. I don't know what it is. If you go on the internet, there's so much to read. I need to go get checked out. And I'm a worrier, but so he's like, oh, you're fine. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine too. So I go call my doctor, and I get in, and they do a blood test. And while I'm there, I ask, could you check the heartbeat? And the doctor, who is not my doctor, makes the time. And he's like, yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Just come on. And we go back to the room, and he can't find a heartbeat. And so then he said, that's normal. Sometimes you just can't find it. Let's go to do an ultrasound. So I still wasn't worried, because there have been times where we couldn't hear his heartbeat. And I just thought, okay, I'm just being silly. There's nothing to worry with. And so luckily a friend of mine was there with me, because Gary was out, and we honestly went and had lunch. I was like, hey, will you run to the doctor with me? She said yes. So we're there and they do the ultrasound, and that's when the doctor got down and he said, he got down on his knees and he held my hand and he said, I'm so sorry, Miss Parrish. He said, but there's no longer a heartbeat. And it's still, it's just one of those things where you think, we've done genetic testing. We've been told he's fine. What do you mean? And there's no answer. They couldn't give me an answer. I'm sure that's normal. And so he says, I'm like, my husband is out of town. What am I supposed to do? He said, well, you can wait until he comes back in town. And I thought that was so strange. And he said, or if you want to deliver, you can deliver today. And I just immediately was like, I have to deliver. I cannot, I don't know what to do. And so I just think I was in like a state of shock. And, my friend said, okay, let's go. I'll drive you to the hospital and I'll call your family. And it's kind of all a bit of a blur, to be honest. I got in the car and I remember just kind of being in this, like in this state. Wait a minute, I'm a mother and you're telling me that I know that my child no longer has a heartbeat. And so she drove me to the hospital, and I just, I remember bits and pieces of her calling my mom and her calling Gary. And I remember she called Gary several times, but Gary was on air. He was in New York. He was in studio, and he just thought, at the time I'd call him about the silliest things all the time. And now I have to be very careful when I call him, because that really he'll tell you to this day, if my wife calls, I have to answer. So I have to be very careful not to call him about things that don't matter, because it's now a thing. So he was in studio and she called, and he flew straight home. And so we delivered the baby that night. He got there. We waited until he got there, and he and my mom were in the hospital, and we delivered him, and Gary named him Elliot. I think I was so in such a state of shock that that's where I let my husband take over.
When you were at Methodist Germantown after what happened, the hospital placed a leaf on your door. And when you changed rooms, the picture the leaf went with you. Gary said at that time, quote, "Some of you have been with us every painful step the past few days, and I can't overstate our appreciation. We're going through something terrible and unlucky, but we're fortunate to have such a great support system in place. And I hope we can thank you in a more meaningful way sometime down the road after we exit this room for good one last time and put that leaf on this door in our past as best we can," unquote. After what you guys, went through, I know obviously this is something you're never ever going to forget. Gary has shared how incredibly strong you are, Kelly. How were you able to cope with everything and eventually move forward?
My natural instinct is to take care of other people. So I just went into that mode. This all happened a few days before Aiden's birthday. So I actually delivered Elliot and went straight into how are we going to celebrate Aiden's birthday. It was almost, I just kind of skipped over what had happened, because there's no way I could have just delivered a baby that I cannot take home with me. And the whole moment of it, I'm very fortunate because I get to talk about this to women, because I own a children's store. And so I get to talk about my experience in a way that makes it, I don't know if it's more common or if it's brings light to it. But for me, I just went into, it was like it didn't happen for that very moment. I just went into this, I have to take care of my other children. Where are they? What are they feeling? What's going on? Do they know about this? What do we do? And I think it took a couple days. It was a long car ride home to go home with no baby, to not a crying sound. And I think, I still haven't read all of what Gary wrote. Just, it strikes a chord, but to deliver a baby and to be in between two people who have babies who were crying was it was torture. I don't think that that should be possible. I don't think that people who deliver a stillbirth should be on the same in the labor and delivery. I think that they should do that in a different part of the hospital. And I've actually written to the hospital and explained our situation and how that was a form of torture to be in between. We were literally in between two people who had crying babies all night. And we not only didn't have a crying baby, we had an empty incubator in our room. So we're just staring at this, and it was horrible. And so that was bad. But then, for me, I just went into how can I take I'm in the hospital and I was ordering decorations for Aiden. And so then I got home and everyone was so concerned about me that I think the moment that I actually took my first shower, that I just that was my first moment of darkness, because someone wasn't watching me. Someone wasn't, how are you? Are you okay? What are you feeling? My mom, my husband, my whole family were just so gathered, making sure I was okay, that first moment, I just went to my knees, and I had my moment where I kind of lost myself in the shower, and I needed it to be okay. I needed the door to be locked, and to have that moment for me to say, I'm not okay. And I had that moment, but like Gary said, we had such an outpour of support from our community and from people, honestly, all over the country. I mean, I had someone send me a prayer shawl from England. A lady took the time to knit me someone she doesn't know, because my husband talked about it on his podcast. People from all over took the time to go get me a card. Somebody who owned an insurance company and took the time to write me a card and say, I'm thinking about you today, and I'll continue to think about. I still have his card. I still have and I occasionally open that box and I read every single person. I kept every card, because there's something about the people that you know and love. Of course, they're going to wrap their arms around you, and that means a lot. But the people that you don't even know, who took the time to write you or to call you or to make you something or to bring food, there's something that was very eye-opening for me, to now take the time, if someone's going through something, to say, hey, do you mind if I get your address? Do you mind if can I check on you? Because there's something about that.
A few months after that happened, within a few months, you found out something else is going on with you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So right after we went through that loss, I think Gary was kind of in this, what do I do for my wife? I don't know how to fix this. And he will forever have a different experience than I did, because when we delivered the baby, I kind of went into a state of shock and I passed out, where Gary held him, and he has this different memory. And I have to constantly remind myself that of that, because shortly after we got pregnant with Louie, and he was he went along with the other three. He was a complete shock. And so in the process of this, we were seeing a doctor when we delivered the baby. We also, okay, let me back up. So when we delivered Elliot, after that, we had to stay in the hospital, and then I was sent home, and I had this excruciating pain. I didn't know what it was. I was yellow. I didn't feel well. So I had to go back to the hospital. There was placenta that was left, and it was going septic. So they had to go back in and do another surgery, a DNC, and just scrape all the things out. In the midst of that, we don't know how or when it happened, but my uterus was torn. And so I go from having a stillbirth to then having to be in a gynecologist's office every single week to try to figure out how to fix this problem. So that was also something that was challenging, because you're around pregnant women, and everyone just thinks that we're in this. I mean, we were in a mourning stage, but also we went from delivering a baby, losing him, to then we find out, I go in first for pre-op for them to fix my uterus. And they say, oh my God, you're pregnant. And I'm like, what? I mean, this was weeks after. So anyways, the doctor's like, there's no way there's just no way you have a tear in your uterus. We don't even know how this has happened. We don't know how it's possible. And so we go see a high risk specialist, and one high risk specialist said, no, you need to terminate this pregnancy. It's not possible. And Gary, because of his experience, it said, we're going to do what this doctor said. This doctor said, terminate the pregnancy. That's what we're doing. That's it. End of it. And then I went and saw another high risk specialist, Dr. Jacques Sampson, who will forever be my guardian angel. And we're still friends. And he said, look, if you want to have this baby, I have reached out. I have talked to doctors from all over the country. And yes, a large percent says to terminate, but there is this small percent that says we can save this baby, or we'll try. So Gary's with me, and he tells us both this. He says, if you tell me right now that this is what you want to have this baby, we won't talk about it again. We will go full force on saving this baby's life. And that's what we'll do. And so at that point, Gary was terrified. And I looked at him and I just said, with the most certain thing I've ever said in my life, was that I will not terminate. Had it been before we went through a loss, I would have said, okay, you're the doctor, you're telling us to terminate. I'm going to listen to you because you know what you're doing and I don't. I just lost a baby and it was out of my control. So there was no way that I could then say, let's terminate this pregnancy because it's for my safety. At this point, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, your uterus could rupture and you can never have children again. I never want any more kids, ever. None, done. So for me, there was no question. So we went forth with it, and we saw Dr. Sampson twice a week. And we didn't tell anyone. We were told that the odds were against us. I'm just going to, he said, I'm going to tell you, we're going to do our best that we can do. And he assumed that at so many weeks, we would have to go in, reopen my C-section and scoot the sac to the side and try to repair the uterus so that the baby could stay in safely. Well, at around, I think it was 16, 17 weeks, scar tissue formed over that tear and held Louis in. And so every ultrasound appointment, okay, we're okay. And then at 30 weeks, I told Gary, I said, Gary, I don't know. I can't explain it. I feel like we're about to have this baby. And Aiden had this big school project. And I said, let's do it. Let's do it tonight. We're going to go to the grocery store. We're going to get everything we need. Let's do all the things. And the next day I went in for an ultrasound, and she does the ultrasound, and she said, that's weird. He must be getting big. I see some fluid. And so the doctor calls, and he says, he's the sweetest man ever. And he said, hey, Kelly. And he was at all my appointments, and this was the one appointment he couldn't be at. And he said, hey, I wasn't there. I just calling to check on you. How's everything? And I was like, everything's fine, but could you go back and check my ultrasound? I have a strange feeling. Something was off. And he said, yeah, of course. I'll call you back. And I said, okay, thanks. So he calls me back, and he has this, Kelly, what are you doing right this second? What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm standing here. He said, I need you to get off your feet. I need you to get in a car, but someone has to drive you. You cannot put pressure on a pedal. That tear is ripped open. And it gives me chills to this day, because I remember just standing there and thinking, oh my God, I'm about to lose another baby. What do I do? So I called Gary and I said, we've got to get to the hospital. And we had decided mid-pregnancy to deliver at Regional 1. This was a high-risk pregnancy. I wanted to be at the best hospital who was most equipped to deliver this baby. And so I have a dear friend who was close by, and she said, she actually had called in the middle of it, and I just start crying. And I said, oh my God. He said, I can't even. She said, I'm on my way. I will be there in a few minutes. I'm on my way. So I call my mom. My whole family is just in tears. And Gary And at this point, no one knows. We have a small handful of people who knew that I was pregnant. People just still think, oh, poor Kelly, she's lost a baby. She's not coming out of her house. She's not really doing much. She's just mourning. People don't know that we're about to deliver this child. And so anyways, we go to Regional 1. They were phenomenal. We had 17 nurses and doctors in the room when we delivered him, and he came out. He was 4 pounds, and I mean, when I tell you, it was such a phenomenal experience. It was so good. But when it happened, I just remember, why do I not hear him? I cannot hear him. And so they were like, we have to repair your uterus and then we'll get to him. And then I still didn't hear him. So it was just, I think until the second I heard him, I didn't know how to handle all the emotions. And so he came, we were there 13 days in the NICU, and now he's almost 6.
And speaking of Regional 1, you said, quote, "It's still weird to read and share such personal experiences about our journey, but the spotlight is really on the doctors, nurses, sonographers, and healthcare professionals who stood by my decision and guided me every step of the way. My doctor, Dr. Sampson, and his wife, Dr. Joy Goodwin Sampson, have impacted so many lives. I hope all of Lewis's success is a testimony to their dedication. Their care and compassion, combined with their skill and knowledge for their parents, makes everyone who works with them as much as a jewel as they are. My family will be forever grateful for the Sampsons and the team of healthcare professionals that did and still do look after Lewis, and also for those who we have never met but take on the responsibility of caring for patients every day. Thank you," unquote. What amazing testimonial to the Sampsons, who you just talked about a few minutes ago in the hospital. Tell us a little bit more about the Sampsons, who you say that, they're, quote, like, you love them like family now.
I do love them like family. We were really fortunate to have not only Dr. Sampson, but his wife. She is also Dr. Sampson. She was Louie's NICU doctor. And so they have a child. And so they had been through their parents. And so they can relate to you, and you're not just this number. For Dr. Sampson, during our entire time, if I had a concern or a worry, I never felt like I couldn't reach out. And so I would reach out and he would listen and he would say, okay, just come in. Okay, do this. Okay. There was always a solution to any problem. And so having someone there for you. And then when we had Louis and his wife, who's a phenomenal doctor who works in the NICU, I can remember coming into the NICU one day, and every day I would come in and I would take Louis out of the incubator and I would put him on my chest and I would do skin to skin. I was allowed to be there. I checked in when the nurses checked in, and I left when it was time to check out, and I would wear him and I would nurse him and I would hold him. And one day I came in and they said, Ms. Parrish, Louis is not gaining weight, and we think it's best for you not to hold him and not to nurse him. We think it's best for him to stay in his incubator, and we're going to put a feeding tube. And I just remember feeling like someone had just ripped my rights away. And Dr. Sampson, Dr. Joy Sampson, was walking around, and she had a team of medical students with her, and she's going around and she's like, this is baby so-and-so, and this is the situation. And she gets to us and she says, and this is, Louis Parrish, and she looks at me and I just fall apart. And she says, okay, I need everyone to go over there. Everyone go over there. And she comes and she puts a chair and she sits next to me and she said, okay, Kelly, what's going on? And I was like, they won't let me take him out of the incubator. They won't let me nurse him. I feel helpless. I don't know what to do. And I'm just sobbing. And she said, no, this thing, who told you this? She walks over to this team of people, nurses and doctors and staff. And she says, this is his mother. And the goal is to get him home. When he is home, he will be on her and he will be nursing. So if we need what he needs and what she needs is to wear this child on her and to nurse him. So let's make this happen. And had I not had her, I would have just felt like this hopeless this empty mother, because that's what you feel when you can't do for your children. You feel, I feel empty. And so she advocated for me, and she stood there, and they still do. Anytime I have an issue with anything, I can reach out to both of them, which is just, and now this is the great thing too about being in a children's store, is that I talk to women all day, and I'll talk about them because they've forever impacted my life. And so many women will say, oh my gosh, wait, Dr. Sampson is my doctor, or Dr. Sampson saved my child's life, or Dr. Sampson's, and I, you know what I do? I instantly like, come here, we have to take a picture. I'm going to send it to him, and I'll say, hey buddy, I just met so-and-so, and all we're doing is singing your praises. And it's just, and I'll send it to both of them, and what a difference they are making in people's life. But you have a baby, and you move on, and life goes on, and you don't see that person anymore. Well, I'm lucky enough that I still get to connect with them, and I get to share those people's stories and how they've forever impacted those people with them. So it's just really special.
What a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's November of 2017, and you open Aiden and Ollie in Southaven. It's named, as you said, after your two oldest kids, Aiden Turner and Oliver Jean. Your store logo has the rainbow in it. You said, quote, you'll see a lot here that has a rainbow because we lost a child before Lewis. We delivered it 6 months and we lost him. So because Lewis came after him, he is considered our rainbow baby. So rainbows hold a special place, and it means something to me, unquote. Please share how all this, came about with opening the store, and, the idea for the name, and a little bit about the kind of clothes and things you carry.
So when we had Louis, we could not find anything preemie, nothing. It was impossible. I mean, we were lucky. We found some stuff at Carter's, and I just remember thinking, gosh, it's so strange that people have preemies all the time, right? I mean, this is a normal thing, I would think. Now in my world, I know it is normal. And there was nothing out there. And so not long after I had Louis, I had some girlfriends, and it was just, hey, y'all want to go this weekend, go to market where everyone goes and they buy for their stores. And just to like go check it out, honestly, just a girls trip, let's get away. And I go, and while I'm there, I thought, I think I could do this. I think I could open a store. And so I call Gary, and I'm always telling Gary, I think I could write a book. Gary, I think I could do this. I think, and he's always like, what are you talking about? Okay, if you think you can do it, do it. But also because of Gary's platform, he'll post pictures of our children, and people be like, oh, GP, where's this from? Oh, GP. And he's like, here, I'll ask my wife. And so I just always enjoyed styling our kids, and now it's become a career. But so anyways, I decided to try it out. I have a friend who owns a women's store next to me, Janie Rose Boutique, and I've known her and loved her for years. And I've always kind of put it out there. Oh, I think I'd like to do this. So she calls me one day and she said, Kelly, I'm too big. My store is too big. I want to downsize. She was like, it would be so great if you really do put this idea of yours into the world and take half of this space. And so that's what I did. I went to market, and I just kind of gathered things that I thought were unique and that I could bring into our community. And then I built a store that emphasized, when I started out, it emphasized on preemie to size 4. And because I searched long and hard, what worked for me in the hospital, what did I need when I was nursing, what shirt, there was this shirt that I wore, and you can stick the baby inside your shirt, and there was nobody who sold it in America. So I reached out to this company and said, look, there's no one here. I wore this. I believe in your company. And so then I was able to get wholesale access to them. So when the store started out, it was solely based on what works for me and what doesn't. So everything in the store is something that's super soft, because my kids are very picky and they will only wear things that are extremely soft. And so it just it's now turned into, originally we went to size 4. Now we're going to 14. We're actually expanding. We're about to open a whole new store next to us. It's kind of gotten spiraled out of control, but it started out with, I've got anything I have, I'm having to look online for. And why don't I, and I've been really blessed to be able to travel all over to Europe and to all the places that I've been able to travel to. And everywhere I go, I'm drawn to these stores and I find this unique thing that I thought, man, I wish everyone else could, like this is so cool, or this is unique, or this. So that's what I did. I wrote down and researched everything that from all over that I loved, and I put it all into one store.
Amanda Christopher said, quote, amazing small store that has everything you could ever need for a little one. They have the sweetest clothes for kiddos. Every time we stop in, they have new merchandise to look at. We love being able to get matching outfits for our baby and a 6-year-old at Aiden and Ollie. The lovely and welcoming staff are very friendly and always on hand to help you with anything you need. This is our favorite baby boutique by far, unquote. Tell us about your staff.
I have a great staff. So, and I'm so blessed because they're also dear friends of mine. And to be able to work around encouraging women that are able to pick up the pieces. I'm so scattered. I am as ADD as they come. My picture should be next to it. I'm always into every project that can be in. And if I think I can squeeze time in to do it, I will do it. I overbook myself with everything. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But it's nice to have a group of women who have strengths where I have weaknesses, and vice versa. And so, they are always a step ahead of me. So I go to do something and they've done it, or even as so much as when I'm doing treats for my kids' school class, I'll walk in and they'll know that I've been working on something and they will have done my kids' treats for their class. We work so great together, and we're not just, the store is called Aiden and Ollie, a small store with a big heart, because to call it a store seems so, it's not as full as it is. It's this place that really is filled with hearts of people who love each other. We love our community. We're next to my friend Jessica. On the other side of us is a coffee shop. The guy who manages the coffee shop, his mom works with me, and Jane, who helps run the store, she's a former special ed teacher. So we've just got these connections that are just so strong, and we understand each other. And it's just a really great environment. And it's also a store filled with moms who use the products. Alan, who works for me, she reached out to me and sent me an email one day, and she said, hey, I love your store. My mom buys there and I buy there, and I've decided to go to work, and I would love to work in the environment that I feel every time I walk in your store. And it was just so nice to have someone who says, you've got this light and I want to be a part of it. And as does she, and as do all my employees. It really is. It's such a place that I love so much that I can't just, there has to be something about you that I'm drawn to bring you into my circle, to work there. Now to come shop, like, you just come on in and I'm not kidding you. I think we hug everyone, and it's just a group of people who love people. And I think that's what, I don't know that people necessarily love all the things in the store, but when the pandemic happened and people were no longer shopping, I had such an outpour of people that I knew didn't need anything, but they made a purchase every week. I'm really fortunate too, because I get to do Gary's agent and some of Gary's colleagues that are in the sports world, and it's turned into getting to do gifting for them, but also it's turned into just a larger part of our community, because we've just really have been blessed with people who love the store and hopefully the merchandise, but who were able to keep us, people are like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? And so concerned, what can I do? And I'm like, we're here. We showed up every day. My employees, we shut our store down. We were few in state of Mississippi over here who shut the store down for everyone's safety, but we did. We required the mask. We did what we thought was best for everyone, but we just trucked. We we were putting outfits, we used social media, we were Zoom calling with people. Anything that you can think of to do is what we did.
You said of the store, quote, everything that I have in here has a meaning behind it, unquote. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah. So from the time that you are pregnant and you think, oh my God, what do I need? You really don't need that much. And I tell people that you really, there's not a lot you need. You need a healthy baby. And I'm here to show you the fun things that can add to your sweet baby. So I have gear to help you with nursing. I have gear to help, with your car seats and with teething. And then I just have really sweet, soft clothes to put that sweet baby in. And then from there, it's just after that baby stage, then I've just got really cool clothes for your 5-year-old to your 10-year-old to your 14-year-old. But there's not really that much that you need. Yeah, I was just at an event at the Botanical Gardens just the other night, and there was this new mom, and she was so nervous, and she was like, I know that there's all these things, and I feel so unequipped that I don't have them. And I just told her, there's really not much you need. There's really not. Now I've got great things that you can choose from, but in the world of what is it that you need? And I think that's what kind of people like to, when they come into our store, there's never a forceful, this is what we have to offer. And this is what worked for us. So, this teether my child used and it was great, or this teething necklace, or this. So we have things to offer and guide you. But in the long and the end of it, we just are here to also be a part of your pregnancy. That's the nice thing, is that through all of this, we get to watch all these babies, these bellies turn into babies and then turn into toddlers. And then we're there for the next one and the next one and the next one. And people are just so connected that they're, hey, Kelly, I just wanted to let you know, I just found out I'm pregnant, and I'm not going to tell anyone the gender. I'm going to give you my ultrasound, and will you create something amazing that represents what gender? So I've gotten to do a lot of those, and that's fun. Just kind of being once again, it really is so community driven.
Please tell us a little about the store motto, quote, it's fine, and what it means, and tell us about the Gary Parrish Show t-shirt that you carry in your store too, and what it says on it.
Oh, it's so funny because my motto really is, it's fine. So much so that I had bracelets. Every one of my staff wears these fun bracelets, and it started with my love of them. But with everything, I'm always like, it's fine. We messed up. It's fine. We ordered too much. It's fine. I'm still learning. So I always have way too much merchandise. My husband will tell you that. And so I don't have it, I don't have a merchandising. I don't have a background in it. I just find things that I love, and then I buy them. And then sometimes I realize I bought way too much. And so I'm constantly saying, it's fine. It's fine. So much so that my husband has said to me, Kelly, just because you wear bracelets and you got a shirt and shoes and all these things, I have a pair of shoes and they even say it's fine on them. He says, not everything is fine. And I came back to him and I said, Gary, it's fine. Like, he's such a stressor. He stresses about all things. And I'm not at all. I live in the way of it's fine. And if it's not fine, then we're going to make it as best we can. And then we'll go forward from there. I cannot live in a place of tension or stress. And because that's what my world is. We live in this, my husband lives in another state half the week during a certain time of year. Right now he's gone, and we have 3 children, and I own a business, and he's we're quite busy. So it's fine. It's just become the motto, because that's how I think it's better to be fine than not to be. And then Gary, he's so funny. So when I first opened the store, I would have people come to the store who were just fans, who just, if you listen to Gary's radio show, he is very open about our lives. And he talks about us. And so people will come in and they'll stop in and say, hey, I heard Aiden, got accepted to Emory. How's it going? I heard Louie and Oliver are playing golf. Just random strangers. And so at some point we did a shirt, a Gary Parrish shirt, and it's be careful, be kind, be good, and rep your hood, the end of Gary's show. And we sold quite a few. And they're still on our website. And randomly, I still have people come in and ask for a Gary Parrish shirt. And actually, the other day, I was out in mine, and somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, where did you get that shirt?" I'm like, "Oh, I know where you can get one. Check it out, aidenollie.com."
Awesome. Quote, "This store has my heart completely. From the moment I walked in, I felt loved. Kelly is a wonderful person with a heart of gold. It was almost like I knew her once we started talking. The amount of love in the store cannot be explained until you finally visit. I can't wait to go back," unquote. Kelly Allison Moneymaker said that about Aiden and Ollie. To know you've had such an immediate impact on people that come in your store, where they feel like that, it must make you feel really good.
It does make me feel really good. And the thing is those people make me feel really good. I've always felt like, you've owned a business. If someone takes the time to open my door and walk in my store, I'm so grateful for that. No one has to buy anything. If you took the time to come in and just check us out, that means something to me. And I think it's so important to share a kindness with people and to let people know, I see you, and I appreciate you. And I think that's just simple, and a please and a thank you go a long way. And being in I keep saying the word community over and over, but I do feel very lucky to have a community that not only do we get to work with, but we get to give back. I feel like so many people don't understand that when you own a local store, every day I do a donation for something. When the pandemic happened, we donated $10,000 worth of clothes to the DeSoto County schools, because in the children's world, you order things a year in advance. So we had no clue that we were going to get hit with the pandemic. And you know what we sold out of? Pajamas. Kids were staying home and they wanted pajamas. They didn't need school clothes. They didn't need dresses. They didn't need all these things that we had bought a year in advance for. And at this point, it was, we can sit on this or we can reach out to the schools. And we reached out to the schools, and we donated, however much boy, however much girl. And we went to the schools and said, here you go. I hope this helps someone. And, it was unfortunate when my CPA said we couldn't write it off, but you know what? it was fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And so this person's comment it means the world to me. And I have former students, and their comments mean the world to me. And you asking me to be on this podcast means the world to me. So I just, I really think that it's so important to show people kindness and love and be genuine about it.
Jocelyn Foster said, quote, "We absolutely love Aiden and Ollie, not just the cute clothes, toys, and other baby items, but the experience every time we go in is just awesome. The owner and their employees are just sweethearts. I've never been to another shop or store where they remember us by name and help us pick out things my baby will love. They were so personal, and Kelly is one of the sweetest people I've ever met. If you're going to shop local. Lots of love from mom-owned small shops," unquote. Remembering, regular customers by name is, so important. As you mentioned, I had a small business, and I, that made a difference to people when you remember their name and they walk through the door. It makes them, feel very special. She also mentioned about, shopping local. How has the Southaven and surrounding community embraced your store as you approach your 5th anniversary next month?
I really do. It's funny that you came back when we started the podcast and said, this is the parish that's just, kind of sticking out these days, because it is funny. I've always been Gary's wife, and which is fine. I'm very proud of my husband, but there is something just great about opening a store that is in a community where I grew up in, and having people who feel they can just grab a cup of coffee and come hang out. That every day the coffee shop has named a coffee. I love, love, love coffee. And so they've named us a coffee over there called the KP. And
Oh,
I know. And so they'll grab a coffee and they'll come hang out, and they'll tell us about their day and whatnot. And then the next day they may spend money or they may not, but they've told someone else, and that person has told someone else. And honestly, we have such a huge following in Memphis that being right here on the borderline and the state line of Memphis has been great for us too, because we're in such a little open area where, the traffic is great. But yeah, I mean, I think that Southaven has embraced us, and it is hard trying to please everyone, in the sense of when you have a store, you kind of feel like you're what you need to do for everyone else. And so at some point I had to say, I have to be true to myself. So if you want smocked and that's what makes your heart beat, then I will recommend you to another store that carries that. But in the beginning, I wanted everything that everyone wanted. Oh, you want this? Let me order it. Oh, you want this? Let me order it. And then one day I walked in my store and it wasn't me. It didn't look like me. It didn't feel like me. It was not things I would put on my children. And at that point I decided I have to do what makes Aiden and Ollie. What does this brand represent? And from that point on, I just decided the brand represents me and it represents my children and my look and my vision, and I'm going to stay to that. So there's sometimes you'll find random things. The girls laugh at me when I go to market. I'll go to market and they're like, "Hey Kelly, you want a drink? Come over here." And I'll have a drink and I'll start looking at stuff, and I will come back with the most random things that I thought, man, they knew what they were doing when they gave me that drink. And so sometimes it's just like the most random things at Aiden and Ollie, which is also going to be exciting for our new store because it's going to go into Big Kid. And it's going to be right next to our other store. I'm actually in the space right now. It used to be the coffee shop, but the coffee shop has moved down and they've expanded. And we're about to cut a rainbow, an archway through our old store and make this one over here just magical. It's going to be just fun and smiley faces. And we're doing a graffiti wall and fun. It's just going to be so fun. So, I feel like if I'm not teaching, which I really did enjoy, and who knows, I could go back to one day, then do something that's fun and come to work with people you love and be around people you love and have an environment where like those people said, everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. And so the new store, I get to focus more on it being fun and glittery and all the good, happy things.
last year on September 2nd, Gary said, quote, "Happy birthday, Kelly. I don't know how you stay so young while I get super old, but it's a good deal for me," unquote. On Father's Day, you said of him, quote, "Cheers to this dad who works tirelessly to give our boys way more than they need, to the laughs, the love, the heartbreaks, and everything in between. We love you big. Happy Father's Day, GP," unquote. And lastly, on your anniversary this past July 24th, you said, quote, "We always look like an eyeglass advertisement. It's fine. Making the best of getting older together," unquote. You guys have been through a lot and, persevered, Kelly. And what things come to mind when you think of this wonderful life that you and Gary share together?
I mean, we've shared a long time. I mean, it's not like that we're that old, but we've gone through ups and downs, and we really had to learn, and we're still learning. And Gary and I talk frequently about every day I work on myself, and I tell him to work on himself too every day. But marriage is this partnership and especially with our lives being as busy and with Gary kind of being in a spotlight at times, when he comes home, he's no longer in that spotlight. It's a different light. So when you come home, what I need from you as opposed to what your listeners and your audience needs from you is completely different. So he goes from the stage of, oh, GP, GP. And then he opens that door and it's dad. And it's, I need you to get them to break the fight up. The pool is stopped up. The dog is peed on I need him in a different way. And so for a minute there, that was a hard part for Gary. He didn't feel the love that he felt from other people. But hey, buddy, this is a genuine love and it's a give and a take. So I think in our relationship, we've really had to learn to give and take. And, and there was a time where we weren't certain that we were what we wanted, and we took a break. And it was before we had Oliver, and we weren't certain of what was best for us. And so we separated, and that was the best thing for us, because that gave us the time to recognize, what, this is hard, but we love each other. And if we're going to do this, let's go all in. And it changed us. I think at some point we just took each other for granted because we just always had each other. And we were so young. We were babies. I was a baby. I was 21 when I had Aiden. And so you're such a different person from 21 to even 25. I mean, even now, it's something I try to tell Aiden is that you're always growing and learning. And if you're not, then, I don't know what that says about you, but for me, I need growth. And so I'm constantly, I don't understand basketball. If you talk to my husband, he thinks it's the craziest thing in the world. I think I have a basketball learning disorder. And, but I try. I love his coworkers. I love everyone at the radio station. I love them dearly. And I've been so blessed to get to be a part of them, his crew on staff with the studio in New York. I love them, and I get to be a part of them too. So, I have to find different interests. Gary is an avid Mets fan. So, I'll find myself asking, he's just like, you don't care, but I do care. I care. So I think for us, we have to, he tries as much as he can to ask about the store, but at some point that's where our vacations come in. At some point we have to say, we can't be mom and dad right now. We need each other. We need a time apart to reconnect, because in the hustle and the bustle of our life, this is your job and this is my job, and it gets to be a lot. So sometimes I need him and I need just him. And so that's when I say, let's go wherever. He's in New York right now. And I even said to him, I said, I wish, we're not good at communicating because we're so busy, but I said, I wish I had known, because that would have been 2 days that I could have we need that time to reconnect. And I think that's something that we're constantly working on. We'll go. And we have to find that time to connect, to make it work.
Being the huge dog lover that I am, I must ask about Luca and his fetish with eating remote controls.
Oh, Michael.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
We have the cutest damn dog you've ever seen, but man, I don't know that he's very smart. We've had pugs in the past, and our pugs have been, they go outside to use the bathroom. They didn't chew stuff up. They just love you unconditionally. Man, that French bulldog that we have, he's cute, but I think he's eaten everything in the other night. I was just telling Gary yesterday, I went to take a bath and I set the razor down and I went to get in the bathtub and it was gone. And I thought, oh my God, he's come in without even looking. The kids get ready in the morning and they drop a shoe. He grabs a shoe and runs. Now he is the first to. He will snuggle up to you. The pictures I have of him and Gary, oh my goodness. I wish they would synchronize when they snore though, because you've got, but Gary is a huge dog lover. And so it's so funny too, because he tries to act tough when everyone's around. And then he's always got a dog in his hand at his feet. He sleeps with them. He's the first to let him out, let him in. So that Frenchie, he's cute, but man, I don't know how smart he is.
You said, quote, one of the favorite things to do is spend time with Grandma Dorothy. These moments I cherish. She passed away Last year in September at the age of 91, I know she was really special to you. What are some of the great memories you have of her, Kelly?
She was the most special and will continue to be the most special person in my life. She helped shaped me. She was, from the time I can remember, she was a single woman who had polio and who had this light and aura about her that just drew you in. There was a safety. And I'll carry this with me forever, because now, now she is, what I have left of her is just a part of me. And she just had this safe connection that you always felt like no matter what, she was there, and she accepted and she loved. The one memory I have is after we lost the baby, and my grandmother was there when I got home. And I remember just laying, I'm in my 30s, and I'm laying on the couch, and she's sitting there and she's playing with my hair, and I'm just laying in her lap as this grown woman. And I just felt so safe and nurtured and taken care of, because she was there. And I've always felt taken care of and safe. And she had this way about her that just always, she was all, you would laugh until you peed in your pants. She just had this, she had this about her that she never matched, and she never cooked. Every person around on Highland, every person you'd pull up, Jack Purtle's or McDonald's or Taco Bell, and they'd say, "Hey, Miss Dorothy, you want your chalupa?" There was something about, she talked to everyone like they were a person, and she just had such a calming way about her that still to this day at night, sometimes I'll go back and I'll listen to her voicemails or listen to recordings, and Gary will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I just need to hear. There's something magic in her voice that I will always need. And yes, it's such the worst part about getting older is losing people that you love. That's it. I can handle everything else, but losing people that will never love you as much as those people, that's the worst. So yes, I am always and will forever be grateful to be loved so immensely by her. I'm the only girl, so my brothers and all my cousins are boys, so I was the only girl, and it's just such a special bond that it will always mean the world to me.
Quote, "Happy birthday to our Nani, my mom, and such a light in our lives. We love you," unquote. Tell us a little bit about your mother, Charlotte.
So my mom is a wild card. She's a redhead wild card, and she's a fierce, spunky, older version of myself. She's my very best friend. We talk at least 3 times a day. It drives my husband crazy. He has no clue why you should talk to someone as many times as we talk to each other. But she's just guided me, and she's been there for me and for my children. Aiden spends several days a week over there with her, and she's got a different way about her than my grandmother. My grandmother was very nurturing. My mom is very much do what you have to do. She's a survivor in a sense of, you go to college so you can take care of yourself. You do this so you can, what do you need to do to take care of yourself? And, she raised us, my brothers and I, just to be always looking out for our best interests. What can you do to survive? Like, you need to be on your feet. These are things you need to know. And she's still that way. She's still, you're opening another store. Okay, this is great, but how are you going to do it? What's your plan? It needs to make sense. Everything needs to make sense. So yeah, so she's great. She lives in Southaven, and we live in Hernando, so we're not too far from each other. And she's a fierce one.
You've said about your kids, quote, "They are so wild and steal my heart every day," unquote. Aiden Turner is 19 and a brilliant kid. 35 on his ACT is just remarkable. Oliver Jean, you got Ollie is 8 years old and I think turns 9 at the end of December. And you said of Ollie Pop, quote, he knows how to make you smile. And Louis Daniel Louis will be 6 on November 15th and just started kindergarten this year.
Yeah.
And you said of him a few years ago, quote, there is so much love in this tiny human, unquote. And I think you guys recently just went to see Wilco because he wanted to go.
He loved it.
You said when he got in the car, he said, this was the best day of my life. I love that. Tell the audience a little bit more about your terrific little trio and what the three of them have taught you and Gary about life.
Oh, I think Gary and I we are so blessed, and we get to joke about it all the time. Like, what were we thinking? Like we had one and could be out of the house and we could be done and living the rest of our life, but we're clearly joking because they do complete our family. They keep us on our toes. I mean, every day I have to drive to work in complete silence after I drop them off. They are nonstop. They're full of life, and they each have their own little quirks about them. Louis is the baby. He knows he's the baby. So he tries to act really tough. But then at the night, he's the first one to like curl up. And it's interesting with Louis because I did so much skin on skin with him because he was 2 months premature, that he still to this day wants to feel your skin. So he's always really to Gary and I, or anyone who holds him. We're really lucky. Gary's mom, Jackie, she lives close by and she's real connected with our boys, and she's, he's the same way with her too. So, she's like, I'm just sitting here and he's snuggled up to me. So he's a big snuggler. And then Oliver he's about to be 9, so he's in 3rd grade, and he's got the kindest heart, but also is the first to beat up his brother. The 2 little ones are really interesting though. They play golf with Gary and they love it. And they're just, I think that they're wild and crazy and jumping in the pool when it's freezing, and they're all boy. They'll stay outside for hours digging in the dirt. They don't meet a stranger. Louis loved Wilco. And then it was funny because we weren't planning on staying for Widespread Panic, but he said, please, just one more song. He loved watching the people dance. The next thing you knew, he was busting his moves out and dancing with them. And he just brought light to our experience. We went on Friday with our oldest, Aiden, and he was just, it's okay. But loves Jason Isbell. So, we were expecting this great highlight, but Louis, on the other hand, he got out there and he was dancing, he was talking to everyone, and he didn't want to leave, which just makes it, it makes life fun. I mean, we've got to find the silver lining, because there are times where it's just like, what have we done? They're all Gary. They all act like Gary. So imagine being one human living in the household with all these boys, and they all act like the main one. And man, woof. Yeah, they're fun.
What are the most important lessons that you've learned in your life?
I think it's very important to continuously work on yourself. I think for me, that's been something that I just continuously work on. I see that there's all this room for growth, and I just always want to make sure that I'm open to changes, whatever the changes may be. I think it's important to show love, to not just say it, to show it, to really mean it, to be genuine. And when you make mistakes, to understand your mistakes and to learn from it and grow from it and then explain it. I think there's nothing wrong with telling someone, hey, I didn't mean to do this, or hey, you know what, I did this and because of this, and because of you, explaining your version, or we're now in this stage where there's so much that has changed in our culture and in the world. I think it's just important to understand everyone's viewpoint on things and not place judgment on people and have open arms towards people. And just, I go back to growth, but I really just think it's important to be open-minded and listen to people. I don't agree with a lot of things that people do, but I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to judge anyone. And I'm very blessed to be able to be surrounded in a workforce where I'm surrounded with a wide variety of people, and we get to talk about our own experiences and also be out in the world and get to meet people and see how they choose to live their life and just soak it all up and find the good in all of it.
How can people find Aiden and Ollie on social media?
We are on Instagram and we are on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Aiden Ollie. Sweet girl in Asia had taken the Aiden and Ollie. And so we are just Aiden Ollie. And in Facebook, we are Aiden and Ollie. We have a website that is aidenandollie.com. We do FaceTimes with people all over the US. Yesterday, we did one with a lady in New York and in Nashville. We get to partner with our women's store next door and do matching outfits. So that's really fun. We're really big with the pictures. We do fall pictures and summer pictures, and people come in and we get to run from the women's store back to the children's store and have a lot of fun with it. But also my sweet friend, Adrian Wojnarowski, like he just needs a gift and he tells me, hey, Cal, I need a good gift. And you know what? I can wrap it up and ship it out. We ship every single day and we get to just have so much fun and anything that anyone needs. You don't even have to be there. We can text you a picture. You can call us. It's just so simple. And yeah, aidenandollie.com. We're in Southaven, Mississippi, on Getwell Road, right near DeSoto Central High School, and just a great little area. And we're in a great little shopping center too. We've got the coffee shop and we've got a great little street taco place at the end of our strip mall. And now the loaded teas are such a big deal, and that's here in our area. And like I keep saying, Jessica's store next door, we're just such a good group of people that we all really get along.
Awesome. Just a reminder, as you talked about where the location is, Aiden and Ollie is located at 5627 Getwell Road. It's in the shops of Deer Chase and Southaven, and they're open, I believe, Tuesday through Saturday, starting at 10. Is that right, Kelly?
Monday. We're open Monday.
Oh, you're open Monday now.
Yep.
Okay.
We're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and then Saturday, 10 to 5.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And if you have any questions, you can also reach them directly at 662-253-8803. Kelly, you guys have such an exciting and eventful life. Obviously, many jobs, getting ready to have more with the new store, inside and outside the home. And you make it work so well. I know it takes a lot of work, but you do. And you have a loving family. And I can tell that you're a great mom too. I've really enjoyed having you on today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really enjoy being on. I've never done a podcast. I get to listen to Gary's, but it's completely different. And I'm a rambler. So thanks for bearing.
I like that. Well, that's awesome. Thanks again. I appreciate it once again.
Thanks, Michael.
Have a great day.
You too.